In yesterday's video, I said that pretty soon I would be releasing a real talk video talking about some stuff that's been on my mind. So let's talk. Really quickly, in today's video, I'm only going to be talking about Grassroots and where I feel like stuff kind of went wrong. With that being said, I think it kind of goes without saying with some of the issues. Obviously, now we don't have a new game to play. There's a form of accountability that we're going to discuss, and then there's the side of the HCS esports team that has really no say into what's happening because obviously it's a mix of issues. So basically, HCS Grassroots gets announced around the 20. Well, actually, I think it was literally at the 2018, the last 2018 Halo 5 event. And people were excited, man. People wanted to jump off H5. They wanted to go back to MCC. People thought H3 was going to be a really great time. I didn't personally enjoy it for some of the things we're going to talk about today, but I think that I just want to make sure it's stressed. I'm not roasting a game specifically or anything like that. My issues of stuff has nothing and little to do with game issues and more to do with how things have been ran, structured, and really followed through. So HCS Grassroots gets announced. Basically, they announced the first event, which was really hype, really great. Honestly, it was a fun event. It was UGC St. Louis, January 11th, 13th. They have a prize pool, $30,000, pretty good for a Halo 3 44. There's a $5,000 MCC side tournament. Didn't know that, but that's nonetheless. And then immediately, like how this thing kind of goes is in this article, it's announced that they're after the HCS event. There's Gamers for Giving 2019. They give the date, they give the the location, the game. Tournaments, Halo 3 2v2. Now, I want you to pay attention to the difference of no prize pool announcement. Apparently, this is only supposed to be a 2v2 tournament, but it ends up being a 44 tournament. So the first issue, this is going to be a little bit of a staggered video, but the first issue is just transparency and just the overall awareness of what's going on. Throughout all of Grassroots, and really even this can go back to Halo 5, throughout all of Grassroots specifically, it has always been a question of what's next. What are we going to be doing next? Right now in Halo 5, we're sitting here, coming on to our last Halo 5 10K, and we have no idea of any dates and things of what we're going to be playing and doing. And I think that where this becomes a problem for me and probably amateur players is the tournaments for, I'll say, more amateur players than myself, because our team is signed under Sentinels and are capable of being available for essentially every date, everything that they announce. We should be at least somewhat ready for it no matter what. But so for the Grassroots stuff, it's really going back and stepping away from the high tier level events, because they're giving everyone the opportunity to have these events and to really bring the community back. And what it really did was, in terms of the organization standpoint, we just had no actual clue. And I feel like, if you followed, you could probably say the same. There was just really no actual clue of what was happening over and over again. It's like you'd be at an event and another event would be announced. And for today's day and age of esports, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. People have lives outside of gaming, and unless you're a full-time professional, you most likely need to take off of work, or you need to decide what game you're going to compete in. If you're a Halo competitor right now, or let's just say you're a competitive gamer now, and you've been playing in Halo because you want to go pro in Infinite, kind of same issue, just they don't give that transparency that allows you to come up with a plan of what you want to do. Obviously now they do, or they did, but say you wanted to go compete in Call of Duty, which is the closest game that you would go compete in, you've essentially been wasting your time playing Halo. And I don't mean to be rude when I say that, but it's the truth. If you just want to compete and it's not Halo specific, playing in the Halo stuff now because you were preparing for Infinite, given how far away it is, you realistically probably would have been doing something else with your time. So the first major issue is just transparency. Um, I like how they started. I like how they started for in 2020 specifically. Um, for the online stuff, they gave us loads of dates and loads of listed out things that we'd be playing in, and I think it was really simple and easy to understand. But even going back to the last Halo Reach event of 2020, so this starts in 2018. This issue that you're already seeing of not knowing what's happening, um, already begins in 2018, really going into 2019 because the first event in January, and then it goes all the way to the very first event of 2020. Pre-COVID. We have a Halo Reach event. Halo Reach at the time had been doing pretty well for itself. The PC stuff obviously ended up kind of missing for Halo Reach, and that's okay. It's neither here or there. It's just one of those things. That's a game development thing. I'm not here to talk about that. But at the event or after the event, we still had no clue what we were meant to be doing. After we were at the event, literally asking people, like people that were there working the event, the talent, being like, hey, like, any idea what we're doing after this? And not one person had any kind of answer for us, let alone an answer for the community. So this has been something that's continuously followed as a trend of Grassroots, and I understand some of the issue of it, of not being a league. So I do understand, but the reality of it is, if you want people to competing in your game, and obviously this is something we're not going to run into for Infinite, but if you want people to be competing in your game, there needs to be a roadmap, and a roadmap has basically been required for games going back to like 2016. And Halo, for some reason, has just continuously missed the mark. I don't know what's the issue with 343 and HCS and stuff, but I know that this is going to be fixed, or hopefully going to be fixed for Infinite. But just talking about Grassroots specifically, never knowing what's next is always a problem. And if you go back to, let's say, MLG days, like, I think it's somewhat of the closest thing you can compare Grassroots to, not a league structure like Microsoft is running tournaments, but like these other companies are going to be running the tournaments. MLG had in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, they had a list of, let's say, 5 to 6 events. You knew the prize pool, at least to my knowledge, every tournament, you knew the prize pool way beforehand. I think it was announced beforehand because it was pretty sure it was the same. And then you had a national championship. So it was the same. You had the dates, the locations, everything figured out. There'd be an off season. Something would get announced in the off season, right, of what you were doing. And again, HCS Halo has missed this mark since 2016. And going into 2020, we do not have any kind of information as to what we will be doing or what we'll be playing. I mean, the only actual confirmation that any Halo player has is Tashi tweeting out, responding to a tweet, that we will be doing more of the same, basically, is what he said. We will be playing MCC tournaments. We will be playing Halo 5 tournaments. Now, another big issue that I feel like we have ran into is competitive integrity. I don't say that super lightly because I think that people that are working the events have been try to do their best. But for HCS to run these events overall, like the Grassroots program, they should have way more involvement than they do. Being honest, HCS kind of throws Grassroots events and MCC stuff and the Pro Series, and even going back to live events, which I'll go into in a minute. I know that they're trying to let the tournament organizer run the event, but competitive integrity should, if you're hosting an event and it's got that HCS Grassroots label slapped onto it, competitive integrity should be a very big factor. I shouldn't say factor, but a very big importance. And really, it was lost at these events, and not lost majorly. I don't want to make it seem like it was just the worst thing in the world. But one of the major issues that I know our team ran into was competing at these tournaments, and this was essentially every single LAN event that we would go to. The refs at the station didn't understand our rules and understand what we were doing. Now, I understand why that is, because a lot of the people that are being a ref an event for a tournament organizer, they're volunteers, and I'm appreciative of that. And I don't blame volunteers for not necessarily knowing what's going on within our game. I blame the tournament organizer, and I blame HCS for allowing this kind of stuff to happen. So we would get to a station, and basically, long story short, everyone knows this if you've been following Halo a long time. Higher seed hosts 1-3-5, or higher seed would pick what games they would host. Basically, I think it would, you get the idea, and you pick like what color you are, or sorry, red seed, red team is always the higher seed. So you get the idea. Like 1-5, red team always goes to the higher seed. Go to play at let's say Atlantic City, 2019, the Halo 3 event, and when we play main stage, they run it normal. No real issue like on the main stage. The first time we go around and play, and I'm talking like our very first match, right? Like our very first match of, I don't know, maybe it was round 1, maybe it was full play, I don't remember. But then we go over and play on a side station, and like the ref starts asking us like, what color do we want to be? How many games do we want to host? Do we want them to host, or do we host? And it's like, I know it seems like a really like almost petty critique, but hosting and like what color you are in game can play a pretty big factor into stuff. Obviously, especially for a game like Halo 3, where depending on the game types, it can obviously have an influence. So it seems a little petty, but this is where I feel like a major mark is missed, and I just feel like if you're going to hold events and you're going to run tournaments, you have to have accountability, you have to have competitive integrity. And again, I believe it is something that has really missed the mark overall because of situations like this. And if that's happening to us, who knows what's happening to amateur teams and pro teams that aren't maybe even super aware of the rule book. And keep in mind, by the way, with every single one of these events follows complaints. So basically, like either at the event or after the event, our team would always be critiquing and commenting over to the appropriate people, and nothing changes. Nothing ever changes. Nothing ever gets fixed. I'm hoping for Infinite that's very different, but honestly, I think that how you run tournaments, especially on the esports side, is going to play a big factor into your success or your failure. And the reason why HCS Grassroots has started going less and less teams overall isn't, in my opinion, because 100% of the games, it's a major factor into just how stuff is ran in general. If you're an amateur player and you compete in a game, and realistically you just want to compete, you want to have some fun, and game with your friends, whatever the case may be, you want a smooth experience and you want an enjoyable experience, and that is not something that Grassroots has provided at basically any LAN event or any online event. Fast forward to the Halo 5 Pro scene, the Halo 5 Pro Series, excuse me, and FaceIt has essentially, other than I believe the very last tournament that we played, gotten something wrong on every single tournament. I talked about this a little bit in the past video, but just to kind of obviously bring it to light here, we play the Pro Series. You're meant to play two. Every team is meant to play 2 open tournaments. The first one being random seeds. Second one being the seeds from the first tournament to try to navigate through the randomness to get to the pro teams, right? So we play the first tournament. All is good the first tournament. So really 2 tournaments that were good. All is good the first tournament. Can't really go wrong. Random seeds. Fast forward to the second tournament. They give us the 1 seed. So they're using a seed. But then they give everyone else random seeds. And it's like, okay, well, 1, how do you give us a seed, but everyone else a random seed? And 2, like clearly that just goes against what the point is. So after that's brought to light, pro players had to bring that to light and get it fixed. It takes about an hour and a half, gets it sorted out, which I wouldn't even really go into how annoying that is. You sit down to play a tournament at 2 p.m. and you have to wait an hour to 2 hours for them to fix something that should have been done in the prior week. But okay. Go on to week number 3, where it was a Pro Series. FaceIt posts the wrong pools. teams are in the wrong pools. I think it's week 3, so bear with me because this stuff happened, but it might not be this specific week that I'm mentioning. So they post the wrong pools. Pro players get it sorted out, get it figured out. We're having a message. We're stuck there for 30 minutes, not getting replies. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. Finally, I think I texted Tashi, and finally Tashi came in and said something. So, the pools aren't right. The pools aren't good. Go on to the next week. Pools are posted wrong again. And it's, oh man, we can't get the pools right here. I don't understand. This is something, and this is where my issue runs into it of how are you for something we play on a Saturday, we have a whole week off, and then we play the following Saturday. So essentially it's 2 weeks, right? Give or take. How are you so unaware of pools and figuring out competitive integrity to make sure things run smoothly? And they do end up fixing it. We're not playing in wrong pooled tournaments. But from FaceIt side, how is that a possibility? And then from the HCS side, when they mess up a couple times, right? That accountability factor should have been there. You should have been looking over and watching it and having the watchful eye to make sure things run smoothly. Because guess what? Your name is attached. The HCS Pro Series is attached to it. So whatever that happens, one of the times they counted a team twice in pool play. They end up figuring it out. They posted new pools. They did it again with a separate team. Okay, then you throw in the fact that they don't do the game types prior. So we finish our pool play, then we go to bracket play, and we sit there and wait for game types to be posted. One of the weeks they removed refuge and all that stuff and added Fathom back in. In game types they posted that week for the bracket play, they included the stuff that they took out, and then we had to go and sit through and wait again for them to, I keep hitting my mic, I'm sorry, to go and fix it. The last thing that I'll kind of say is, with the whole competitive integrity thing, they made a ruling one week of no glitches allowed, and a team got a replay because of a ball glitch being allowed. A team using the ball glitch, which is one hit beatdown, in case you're wondering. And FaceIt makes a ruling saying no glitches, which okay, fine. I don't necessarily agree because I think it's hard to rule that stuff online, but okay, it's your rule. Fast forward to 2 weeks later in the 10K. I won't go into the full description of everything that happened, but basically a team used the start glitch, which is basically you rubber band your Spartan. I don't think it was intentional. We end up losing by 1-2 kills. Could it have had a factor? Sure, but whatever. But basically, I go and message FaceIt, and I'm like, hey, this isn't supposed to be allowed. I don't care. It was only a pool play match, and we still made it out. So I was like, I don't care. It's okay. I don't want to replay, but can you issue can we just get a warning out to everyone so it doesn't happen in bracket play? Because in bracket play, you're playing for money, and essentially, if you give a team the opportunity to DQ you, it's very, very possible that they'll take it, depending on who it is. And I kid you not, FaceIt's reply to me was, we are trying to run a broadcast. We cannot quickly decide, something like this. It's paraphrasing, but we're trying to run a broadcast, and with how quickly we're trying to run the broadcast, we cannot make a ruling that quickly. So you made a rule to follow up and say you can't follow your rule. Message HCS about this, and HCS then comes back with the ruling, because at this point I'm just annoyed. I'm like, dude, you guys have been messing up over and over again. How's that a reply, right? HCS replies, we cannot make this a ruling because it is impossible to tell if the players are doing it intentionally or not intentionally, aka the glitches, which I'm okay with. I agreed with because I said it from the beginning. But at the same time, you can't 1 week say this, make a ruling, then the next week when it's not convenient to you, go and say the opposite. I don't know. I don't want to, if you made it this far, I don't want to just sound like I'm complaining the entire time, because I'll say it over and over again. I am appreciative of stuff being held for Halo players and specifically amateur players to really keep playing and keep getting their names out there. But I hope moving into 2021, we can really start to focus, and by we, I mean the Halo community and HCS, can really start to provide tournaments with a little bit more stature and integrity. You know, I want it, even though we might be playing in grassroots stuff, I want it to be taken seriously to where the rulings and the broadcast, etc., is held to a certain standard. And I feel like that's the issue with these Halo events going back to 2018 is the standard has been thrown out the window as to how these events are ran, how people are held accountable, and really like what is expected. I think one of the biggest things that I really want HCS to do, and it's not going to happen maybe for Infinite, is hire somebody maybe within their company. I don't know. I've always said Clutch would be a great person for this because of how well he knows all the pro players. But I would really like them to hire somebody who deals with all this stuff. That way, it is, again, held to that standard, and our complaints are actually being heard with action behind it. Because I think our complaints are heard, but I don't think there's action behind it, nor is there action ever intended to be behind it. It's the same thing that kind of happened through Halo 5. We are merely listened to, but not appreciated to actually be backed into what we're saying. But nonetheless, this video has gone on about 30 minutes. I don't want to go on any longer. I'm sure there's other stuff I could bring up and go into. I don't mean to be complaining because I don't want that to be this. You know, I know that's what it is, but I just wanted to shed some light. I wanted to have a real conversation as to what I hope for 2021. And if we're going to have more of this stuff, I think the only way to hopefully fix it is by shedding light on what's been going wrong in the past. And I think that opportunity overall has been lost. I don't think that we're magically going to soar back up to, let's say, 80 teams in a tournament. You know, I didn't even go into how the whole community wants to double elimination, but the FaceIt website doesn't do it. I didn't even go into any of that stuff. There's loads of other stuff to go into, but nonetheless, you kind of get the point. You get where I'm coming from with it. So going into 2021 Grassroots, I hope that we can raise the bar a little bit into what the standard really is for competitive Halo, because unfortunately, I think that from an amateur standpoint, amateur viewpoint, I think that this is just it hasn't been a good look heading into Infinite. And I know Esport Engine is supposed to be like taking over, and I have a lot of faith in that. But I believe it starts with this. It starts with the teams that we have now, and not just the competitive teams, but like the HCS team and how stuff is ran. You know, per example, using myself, I am using my channel now to get the right. I'm using my YouTube channel now to build the right habits and get the right routines, so that when it's go time, aka Infinite, that thought process and those habits, and it'll be there. And I think that that is how this whole thing should have been looked at, and hopefully moving forward, it will be addressed and fixed and smooth sailing by whatever that means. I appreciate you watching this video. Again, apologies for it sounding like complaints, but honestly, I've been struggling mentally a bit with some of this stuff. I really kind of, I don't know. I care a lot about Halo competition or Halo competitive and just Halo in general. And it's tough when you see issues time and time again happening that don't seem to be fixed. And it feels like, being one of the more vocal people in the community, it feels like I'm just fighting a losing battle when it comes to some of this stuff. So appreciate you guys just listening to me vent. To be honest, it was more for me, for mental clarity. But moving forward, I'm going to try to, like, I've really been trying to dial back how serious I take stuff, because mentally it's just not good for me, honestly. Like with how little it seems like for the Halo 5 Pro Series, FaceIt and HCS to care more than other people is like detrimental to my health. I appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully, again, it's not taken the wrong way. I do appreciate all the support I get very, very much. I think that goes without saying. Thank you again for watching. Hopefully 2021 goes smoother. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.